All right. This is an exciting day for me because this has been a long time coming. I've been able to work with you, Chris Sulimay, on your podcast a couple times, but now I get to interview you on Next Level Salon Leadership Podcast. So thank you, Chris Sulimay, for being a part of this interview today.
Well, thank you. And I look at you as one of those people that I just look up to. And so it's an honor.
And I love it. You're calling straight in from Chicago at the Data Driven Summit. So you're live there, which is so exciting. And Chris, being the fact that you're there, you're actually in the hallway. So if you hear background noise in this podcast, just know it's people at the Data Driven Summit at the Chicago Hair Show. Talk a little bit about the summit, what's been happening there, because I know this is kind of the first time after COVID, different salon owners getting together in person, not on Zoom, right? And so talk about some of the things that you're hearing as far as advice to take our companies to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple of things that happen. And I think, from stage, there's the a little bit of the temptation to paint the picture of what isn't going well. So you can maybe, kind of offer the solutions as to what could be going well. And we just had a private side conversation outside with a few of the, speakers about the fact that, for the most part, salons are managing their growth right now. And the evolution that is happening, now we all know that some salons decided to close this last year for multiple reasons, whether they were mismanaged already and, and excuse me, and the closure just, kind of tipped them over the edge, or an owner decided that they didn't want to be an owner anymore. So if you take out all those closures, the people that we've been talking to, and even, the buzz around the show is people are trying to manage the growth and understand the new way to organize their teams. So, they're talking about flexibility. They're talking about what really is the new business model. Like, this year was the year of a lot of people are calling it resignations, where, in the job world in general, a lot of people just quit. They just quit their jobs. Yeah. And we're no different than that, and it's not a symptom of the salon industry. It's a symptom of, what's kind of happened in the world. And so what people are doing is they've been searching for, they got a little time, and they had the ability to ask themselves the question, what do I really want to do? I wanted everybody, innately, I believe we're wired to work. I think we all want, because of the contribution that it gives us, the purpose that it gives us. But I think it's been a long time, maybe never has it happened, where we all at the same time have asked ourselves, okay, of course I want to work, but what type of work do I do, and what do I want it to look like? And as a salon leader who went through this when I owned my own salon, and I don't currently own a salon. I work for a guy named Brian Perdue who owns 6 salons and a cosmetology school. You guys have a lot of similarities in your story and in your outlook on life, which is why I choose to be led by Brian. But when I was that person, I remember a very specific day where I was at the shampoo bowl at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I was watching the staff come in, that my employees, if you want to call them that, just for lack of a better word, but, the people that work in my salon. And then 8 o'clock that night, I remember being at the shampoo bowl again, and watching them all trickle out. And it dawned on me, somehow it got real clear that they did not want to be me. They did not, there was nothing about the fact that I had a 20-person day that they thought was cool, that they idolized, that they wanted. And so even though I might have an extraordinary financial day, the physicality behind it and what they wanted to do with their life, it wasn't that. That wasn't what leadership was. And so, fast forward to what's going on now, I understood that at the time because it just became glaringly obvious. And now I think for those who hadn't gotten there yet, it's glaringly obvious as an industry that the people that that are going to work in salons now are going to work in salons for lifestyle, for happiness, And somebody said this yesterday from stage, and I thought it was really insightful. It's like, people are working more for freedom now than they are for money. We worked for money, you and I are similar age. We worked, and purpose. But in the 80s, we talked about money. In the 90s, we talked about money. And now what we're talking about is freedom, because of the ability to make what, we earn. So a lot of conversations like that are happening, as well as technology and, where that's heading and how that's going to affect our retail game and how that's going to affect our, or I should say in Paul Mitchell language, our home care game. And, how that's going to affect what it looks like to actually, what the salon experience is going to look like as well.
Yeah, I do. I want to dive into that too, now that you mentioned it, because I want to hear about it. I'm getting free education right now while you're paying to be there. So I love that. So Chris Sulimay is the co-founder of 124 Go, and he also is the co-founder of Shop Talk Podcast. And you have to get on and listen to all of those. Just binge listen to them one after the other. If you need your heart lifted, I tell you, Chris is incredible at that. And of course, your partner, John Palmieri, which we absolutely love. We've interviewed him on this as well, too. And so one of these days, we'll have to get Brian Perdue on these, which would be awesome. And so the fact that you get to work with Brian and he has 6 salons and 1 school, what happened this past year, 18 months with the salons?
Well, salons? Yeah, and so that's kind of the thing is Brian runs his company debt free. He's well managed. He's profitable. He chose in the pandemic to be a little bit less profitable by remodeling a couple of salons that needed the work. And the buzz kind of became, during shutdown, okay, plan and prepare. Yeah. And so, while we were shut down for a short period of time in Georgia, during those 6 weeks, we went to work every day. The core, at the time I was a part of the core leadership team. I've transitioned out of that role now. But, John and I went to work every day. Tammy Cosper, who is the HR and COO for Salon 124 Group, made sure the employees were taken care of, made sure they had no questions as far as HR and payroll, that that everybody really got a vacation is what happened. And that, I know that's very different from what happens in most salons, because Brian has the benefit of surrounding himself by leaders, but his entire outlook, was about the financial health and well-being of the business and the people within the business. And being super prepared for everything that was going to come. And so, in the beginning, and I hate to even talk about this right now, but, in the beginning, that was how do we reopen, right? Of course, everybody had that conversation. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it was, staying with the heartbeat of where were all of the people in the biz, like, how were they feeling? Were they safe? Were they feeling safe? And were they feeling supported? We talked a lot about in the very beginning as a leadership team, we were much more about accountability prior to pandemic. We got a lot less profit focused and a lot more people focused for a period of time. And it didn't mean that profit went away. And it didn't mean that people were never the focus. They were always right up there at the top. But it was allowing the staff meetings that we had scheduled, no launches. We just walked in and heard people out, and John would go around the room and he'd go, hey, I just want to check in, and then he would go to every individual in the company, over 120 hairstylists. If you include, over 200 employees, if you include everybody all in, and he would go to one by one in the room. How's your family? How's everybody doing? And so because of that work, and it wasn't, that wasn't a canned strategy. That was genuine care for those people to make sure that everybody got to voice where they were at. Some people lost grandparents during that time. We didn't know, like nobody, we didn't know. And it was like, we would find out with the group and they could have a group hug and everybody could, kind of swarm around that person. So the ones that were going to transition, because this year was the year of resignations. Some people decided, hey, I want to be in a smaller place. But other people, the ones that ended up knowing, they got reinforced by the fact that we went people first. And the other portion, I'm just thinking about Brian and things I learned from him watching him this year. Yeah, I think the main thing was the financial responsibility. Like, he is so fiscally responsible. And, as a stylist, I might not always understand that. I might look at Tina and say, Tina can afford to put in, more TV screens, or, I'm making stuff up, right?
Exactly.
Tina,
no, I get it.
Yeah, we should have, this and this and this. And, whenever Brian says no, it's no with a purpose, and he comes with the full explanation, and he tries to educate you on why we had no problems being shut down and wouldn't have problems being shut down again. It's because, of the responsibility that he operates with, making sure that we're healthy as far as cash flow goes, and that we have the resources to, weather a storm like that.
Yeah. It's so powerful. I love that. It just being fiscally responsible, I think, is the number one thing that needs to happen with salon owners, like you said, because you get the shiny object syndrome. I know I'm that person. And so Sean is the person that holds me back and saying, no, Tina, that's not in the budget. And so that's like really helped us. And tell me if it's helped you too, as far as being, heavily involved with the salons and the school, of knowing, okay, how much do I have to spend? So our business partners, they're, 20, 23, 24 years old. They're young, right? And so they're understanding that now, because we sit down and explain to them, okay, this is our budget for remodeling. This is our budget for electricity. This is our budget for payroll, whatever it is, right? And so how much has that helped you as a stylist, and how do you guys get that information out to the masses in all of your companies?
Yeah, so there's 6 locations, and again, I'm not a part of the financial team. I want to make that super clear, but I get to work with them, a lot.
Yeah.
Brian has a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for those that language is weird for you, and that means David's job is to sit and think about money, right? If we're going to put it, like that. And specifically, David's job is to sit and think about money as it relates to hair and hair salons, right? And so every decision that is made, whether it's how much you're going to invest in a product promotion. Let's say, for instance, we all have the holidays coming up now, right? So if you're not thinking of holidays yet, you're late.
Yeah,
because right? Because the companies that sell products to you have been thinking about products, or thinking about these holidays since last November.
Yeah, right.
And so, you know what I mean? So if you're late to the game, but how much are we going to invest for our promotions that are happening around, the holidays? How much? And those are the types of conversations that are really helpful. Now, a great example to bring this to salon level and stylist level, again, with 6 locations and always either remodeling one. Brian just opened a brand new one. Actually, he did a complete gut during COVID of 2 of the salons, both of them $250,000, $300,000 remodels. One was a $500,000 opening. So like significant amount of money spent. And again, like I said, running debt free. So he's paying all out of pocket with this, and able to pay with profits. And, when one of the salons starts to feel left out because their salon needs maybe is starting to need some work, the floor is starting to lift in an area, which happens when you're spilling hair color on it for a few years, that type of thing. We're able to walk in during staff meeting month, and so 4 times a year we have meetings at all 6 locations. In smaller settings, we recommend 1 meeting per month, but it's just we have a lot of moving parts. And we go in and we allow them to ask those questions, and we make sure that when they ask the question, why has that not been addressed yet? It's because they know the order of which things are happening and why those decisions are being made. So there's never a time that anybody can't ask a question that either A, we're not willing to answer. And when I say we, I really mean John Palmieri right now, because John is the one, he's the director of leadership development. And so he's the person that the managers go to with questions. He's the person that when there is a question that maybe a manager's just not in the know on yet because it just hasn't played full out, that they can go to him and they can get an answer. And every person in the company, and I mean every person inside of the salons, knows that that's how it works. So because that trust has been established, even the newest person knows that if I go to Jenna, who is the manager at the Hamilton Mill location, and I ask Jenna a question, and Jenna can't answer that question, usually she can answer almost everything that anybody would come to her for. But if it's a fiscal question, if it's about something that's happening overall with the company and why we're making the moves we're making, she's going to go to John, and John is going to circle back with that person or with Jenna, and they're going to get an answer. So that trust is, I think, the biggest part of being established. So everybody feels safe to ask questions that they have on their mind, and they know they're going to get a reply, and the reply is not ever going to be no because I said so. Right. Now there are times when, look, Brian's the leader of the company, right? So his decisions, on certain things, whether it be the brand, whether it be our values and where we're headed, those have been established. So there are times, that Brian as the leader, it is no because I said so, but it's not because I said so. It's because these are our values. This is where we're heading. So, if we want to use the fiscal responsibility as an example, like for us in our mindset, and this is the way we deliver it to a 18-year-old new front desk, support staff member. Why can't we have this? It's because it would be irresponsible for us to spend all of our money. Yeah. Because if there was a storm that happened, we need to be able to weather the storm and make sure you have a position to come back to work to. Yes. And so when we start to talk to people like they're grown adults, it's amazing how those people develop into leaders at really young ages.
Yeah, it's so good. And I love that you said it would be irresponsible. And I think, we kind of, when I look back at raising my children, right? And so they had money, and so they could have like new stuff all the time. And then we're taking on these new, stylists in our salon, and they're like, man, this is not new. I want new stuff. Like, how do we get new stuff? And so we even deal with this from time to time in our own salons, and when I'm also coaching it. And so, Tina, how do I deal with the fact that someone wants all new furniture in their salon, but hey, we're not being, we're being irresponsible here. Let's get to this percentage first so that we can utilize some of those profits to go in towards a building fund, a rebuilding fund, right? And that's what it sounds like what happened with Brian. And we did the same thing actually, Chris. During COVID, we actually did a remodel on one of the locations because it needed it. It had been years and it desperately needed it. What a perfect opportunity while you're shut down, because you're going to have to shut down anyway.
Yeah, totally. And the whole catalyst is like right now, if you're looking back and you're going, oh, well, we weren't able to do that, or we won't, the whole point is like start that now. We just sat down a minute ago and talked with Jason Everett. I don't know if you know Jason or not.
Yes, I love him.
Yeah. We grabbed him and Doug in the hallway and, just talked a little bit about what's happening. And we all agree that, if you weren't profiting, number one, you have to start to take a look at what profit actually is. Most saloners, unfortunately, don't really kind of get profit. And what that actually is. Well, if you're not there right now, don't worry about it. You had a storm last year, but we'll get another storm. that we know will happen, right? We'll get another storm. So start to plan financially now. So when those things come, you're there. And that's, I mean, again, that's my biggest takeaway working with Brian for the last 3 years, because he just never makes a decision off the cuff. He doesn't pander, when a narrative is starting to move in a direction and saying everybody should be doing this. He very much calculates and waits, and a little windstorm doesn't look like a tornado to him. And I'm a little less, I'm a little more reactive. And so I learned that, from being around him, and certainly John as well. And so, it's a quality that I hope to have more and more of, moving forward. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, I want to dive a little bit into what is profit. And I love it that you have 124goacademy.com. And so people can hire you to coach them. And I love your program that you have going. And I love the course that you have going. I want to take your course. It looks so awesome, by the way. I was just, I was stalking your website and I thought, oh, I need to sign up for this. So this is incredible. But I want to dive into that. And I love what you said earlier. And, one of our vision statement for our salons, Chris, is people before profit. So we decided a long time ago that we were always going to put our people first. And thank God we did, because we ended up not losing one team member, one salon stylist. And I truly believe I attribute it back to we've always put our people first, right? But we also are financially responsible, and we know what our budgets are and what we can spend. Thank God for Sean. He's our CFO, and otherwise I would spend all of our money and we would have nothing left. I always tell the staff, listen, we'd be bankrupt if I was your CFO. For sure. Because I'm the same way. I love shiny objects. I love new things. I want to remodel all the time. Like, can we remodel every year? No, we can't, so I wish we could. But I want to dive into this because you said people before profit, and I want to talk to salon owners right now. When you're coaching them, what are you seeing? Because I know for me, many of them, like, to them, putting people first is being a people pleaser. And so that's where I see the challenge happening as I coach salon owners. So as you're coaching salon owners, what are you seeing as far as the challenges that need to be fixed as far as putting their people first?
Well, I mean, you just said it, so I want to repeat it, because putting people first doesn't mean putting everybody in front of you and you become a doormat.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you say yes to everything. In fact, if you really think about the people first kind of idea, I, feel super blessed to have been raised by my mom, who told me no a lot, right? Now, I know my mom put me first, right? She put her children first. Because she did, when the answer was no, it was no for my benefit. So I say that to say that, leaders need to understand that sometimes the best word that one of the people that I work with can hear from me is no, or maybe not yet. Yeah. And so, from that perspective now, I've got a salon owner that I'm working with that I'm thinking of based on your question. And we've been remodeling her pricing structure. And as we started to work on her pricing structure, pricing isn't one of those things, as you know, that you just think up, right? You don't just think up, you don't just call the salons down the street. Pricing is based on what your expenses are, right? Where, what your bottom line looks like. Like, every salon has a different set of expenses. What your supply costs are. Like, pricing is spent on, is thought out based on what your budget is, and then how do you have profit at the end of doing services? And a lot of people do services and don't realize that every time one of their hairstylists does a service, they lose money, because maybe they did a multiple service, chemical service, let's say a balayage that has the root shadow, that has the double glaze, and I've got $35 on the head. And I don't realize that by only charging $165 for that thing, because I'm undercharging, that I actually lost money, that client, lost money. So with that said, what I noticed when I started to work with this particular salon was when we started to actually put the pricing of their salon in the right place, the amount of fear that I could see through this conversation was incredibly immense. And it made me realize that the biggest roadblock to a good business decision that we're leading, this person to make was, number one, the mindset, and her own relationship with money, and her own relationship with, and I think you're gonna identify with this, and Brian, identifies with this as well. Like the reason why that she was so afraid of the price adjustment that we were working towards making with her was she thought it was going to exclude her clients from being able to come and be in her space. And she's a really great-hearted person. And she's like, Chris, I don't want to be the most expensive place around. I want to be the person that everybody can come to. And, we had to kind of land on, well, are you going to do that and put your staff out and you out because you want to be the place that everybody wants to come to? There's a balance here. And, fortunately and unfortunately, we're in business. And my goal when I'm working with you is to make sure that you and your team are able to make an outstanding living, right? Like if you're going to be in business and they're going to be working in your salon behind the chair, they deserve the opportunity to be able to have a quality of life and a standard of living that is above average, because above average teams in this industry earn above average incomes. And they deserve it because they work above average hours and they work above average on their feet and they put in above average effort, and they deserve, what they're working for. So I think, when it comes to profit, there's really the three places where we, see it kind of, that profit disappears. One is in the supply cost. Like we don't have balanced pricing for our supply cost. The second is obviously in compensation, and just really not understanding that I can't give away the ranch. I can pay people as much as I can pay them. And again, I'm quoting Brian right now and saying those words specifically. I like Brian's, kind of motto is I want to pay everybody as much as I can afford to pay them and have a healthy business. Right. And that would be the third part is owners, because they're such good people, because they have this vision for their team, because they don't always understand business and numbers and how they work, they'll make really poor decisions around compensation. And the excuse is just always because they're just trying to pay their people as much as possible. I think I said two. And then the third, so what did I say? Supplies and
and compensation.
Compensation. And then I guess, and then the third would be just overall, what do they spend, like buying every single thing that every brand new thing. I've got six product, I've got inventory. I got 6 product lines on the shelf. The shiny object syndrome, as you kind of shared.
Exactly. 6 products on the shelf. Exactly. Of course, because it's hard. I know some of our stylists get frustrated because we'll have one line, but it won't carry this product. And they're like, well, can we carry this product? And can we carry this product? And before you know it, you've got, like you said, 8 products sitting on your shelf, this inventory sitting there and collecting dust, at this point.
And it is really hard. And I want to bring something up that's, specifically from this data-driven summit that I'm at. And again, I kind of shared this with you a little bit before we started. Like, I'm not an expert in what I'm about to talk about because I'm still investigating myself, my comfort level in the fact that we are changing. And, one of the things that I was excited about coming to the show this weekend was we've been shouting from the rooftops for this last year that the industry's changed. Right. And you know what, this has been coming a long time. Last year just kind of accelerated it.
Mhm.
But I was curious as to what the new breakthroughs, technologies, answers would be. And one of the things that's interesting that all the software companies are here talking about is this um, productless front, where clients have the ability to purchase products from you inside of your salon from their phone.
Mhm.
And the question came up, from multiple speakers, and we've all seen this, where everybody's had the experience where a client has you've recommended something to them, and you've seen them go right on Amazon and look for it.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of people have had that experience, and if you
Right.
haven't yet, you just haven't yet. But I mean, I've stood witness to that, and in my mind, I'm like, wow, what did I just not say? What did I just say to lead her to pick her phone up? But the reality is that's the world we live in, and so I think there are some solutions coming down the line, technology wise, that are going to have us all questioning what our business model has been,
Yeah.
and how do we move with what people are doing. We're not going to change people's buying habits.
Right.
Now we're only looking to capture a certain percentage of sales on anything, right? 20% of the offerings we make, people are going to take us up on. As we get better at building trust and credibility with people and rapport, obviously that goes up, maybe 80% of the offerings we make, but it'll never be 100%, I don't think.
Right.
But are we gonna adapt and evolve to meet clients where they're actually buying? And that, I mean, let's face it, they really lead us, right?
Yeah.
If people didn't love their hair so much, we would be in a different business. We would have found a different business to be in, right? Like if but this is obviously a high demand business. People obviously, care about their look. They care about uh, the look and feel, and being individual. But we still have to meet them where they're shopping and where they're buying. And I'll be curious myself to see where that pans out too.
Yeah, me too. It's been something I've been keeping my eye on for sure. What is your guys' current compensation plan in your salons when it comes to retail, or as you said earlier, we call it take home sales?
Yeah, yeah,
What's your
totally. Yeah. So
compensation?
I mean, so
Yeah,
we still have a pretty traditional sliding scale model based on their percentage.
yeah,
And I believe it starts at 10 and goes to 20. Um, and it's just based on their percentage of sales. And I think it may even be a dollar amount, if I'm not mistaken. It's either percentage or dollar amount. I'm
yeah.
sorry for not knowing the exact. Yeah,
Yeah, but it makes sense because you have like a target, like for us, it's retail to
yeah,
sales, and then you can receive 10% of the take home,
correct.
for it. And so as of right now, that's where it stands until we start to see some better ideas, but always again, being financially responsible and
Yeah,
making sure we make the right decision, because the worst thing you could do is jump and make a decision and then have to backtrack on that decision,
that's
so
right.
I
That's
think
exactly right.
I love what you said earlier, is really, really like be strategic and do not jump at a decision. And I want to talk about a decision that I think some salons are taking right now. And I've been hearing from some other coaches too. And I would love to hear ideas that you've been coaching with too, Chris. But some of the coaches are talking to the salon owners and coaching them to remove Saturdays from their schedule. So we don't do Saturdays. And so I would love to hear your opinion on that. We ended up doing that with our schools. It was easy to do, to be able to make our future professionals happy, because as you know, clinic floor is not a huge part of our revenue source, obviously. And so we want to keep our students happy. Plus, we wanted to be able to put our students in salons on Saturdays too,
Yeah,
to give them an opportunity to be able to assist or work the desk, whatever that might be, right? To make them more employable at the same time. And so it's worked out well for us this year. But we're, of course, thinking like, is this something we should do in our salons? I don't know. What is your opinion on that?
mhm. Well, my opinion is evolving as I've even been here these past couple of days. And the one thing I know is it's easier to, make moves when you're a little smaller, and when you're
Right.
turning the Titanic, it's a different thing. If you're on a jet ski, you never hit that iceberg. But when you're steering a big ship, you have to see further out. You have to make decisions more calculated.
Right.
And so I want to say that because all things are not equal in this, in what I'm about to say. That said, I heard a salon owner, actually a manager that we interviewed for our podcast, talk about how they do 24-hour shifts now. And it's something that they started. Yeah, and what they do is, and they don't, for them. And again, I'm always a little bit fearful to say this stuff out loud, but the fact is, if we don't, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And so the way she explained it, and I honestly thought it was genius. She said, we don't care if they do 2 12s, we don't care if they do 4 6s, but because they split shift, they do 24-hour shifts, and they have a number goal that if you can hit that number in that 24, then great. If you're not hitting the number, now it's time for us to talk about more hours. And so maybe you're building in the beginning, and you need to be there on Saturdays because it's a great building day. Now, once you've, once you've earned the right, and I know that a busy hairstylist behind the chair who knows how to work, the system, can do money on any day and time they choose to work. Right. That's the beautiful thing. I mean, we can develop that clientele. So I think the flexibility part is about going back to your model and looking at all the rules that we were told before we couldn't do, and making sure that's true or false. Right. So, don't listen to me. I mean, go to your numbers and decide what works for you. My brother, I want to use my brother as an example. He owns a barbershop in Philadelphia. It's a very busy barbershop. And he's in the twilight of his career, meaning he's in his 60s and he doesn't know how much longer he's going to work. He owns the building outright. He's set up. He's fine. He's fine. And it's he and his son now. They had a third barber, and now they're down to 2 barbers, and they've been in the neighborhood for years. And we talk about, he's finally stopped working Saturdays. And every now and then he'll have a panic moment where he'll call me, think I should go back on Saturdays? And I go, no way.
No way.
You're 61 years old. You've worked in that neighborhood for 30 years. Your people will come to you when you're at work.
Right. That's right.
Right. But that's his unique situation. You have to look at what your unique situation is. If you're trying to build right now and you're brand new, decide what you want those hours to look like. Make that a part of, what it is. But remember, everything boils down to how much do I need to make to break even and then profit. And then, if you're a young team member and you're listening to this and, and you're saying, well, I want to work 24 hours. I would just say to you, while you still don't have the varicose veins,
Yes.
put in a little bit of time.
Right.
Are you there? Put in a little bit of time and extra effort up front and build that momentum and then once you're there, you have the flexibility to, mold it around. But I think we do have to ask ourselves questions. I mean, that's the bold-faced truth. I think we have been operating on a system that's been dying for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say dying, I should say changing for quite some time. And I think we've ignored it for maybe a little bit longer than we should have.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's funny you're saying all this, but yeah, you're right. Let your numbers decide. It depends on how much you're paying for rent. I think rent plays a big, huge issue here, right? And so, taking a high traffic area and closing down on Saturdays, it's almost like cutting your throat. Like that was kind of stupid to shut down on Saturdays. I know a lot of high traffic areas that are open on Sundays, which totally makes sense, right? And I love that shifting idea. I think that's incredible, and just rethinking. And as someone's going into a business and I get to work with people that are starting their salon businesses. In fact, it's interesting. I wanted to tell you, Chris, because I know like this industry is moving, a lot of people wanting to become suite owners. And we talked about that earlier. But the funny thing is I'm now coaching suite owners of 25 years that have quote unquote told me they have nothing to show for it because they weren't financially responsible. Right.
Yeah.
And so now they want to open a salon. And, you know, these are women that are my age, right? That have been doing this for many, many, many years. And so letting your numbers decide, I think is just so, so, so important. So what advice would you give somebody that's starting a business, and how do you get them started in your coaching company?
Yeah, totally. So, you know, to be super honest, we don't work with a ton of startups at the moment. But right before I jumped on here, we interviewed somebody who has the story that you just told. Mm-hmm. She worked in a salon for a long time. She started a suite, and then realized, you know what, I want to lead people. Like I want to have a team. I want to do this thing. So salons will never die because people inherently want to grow. Yeah. And you know, right. and we tend to like to be communal. And then you have those people that do realize that it's just me. If I'm gonna, you know, if it's to be, it's up to me. And that's what that's what it is. That's the reality when you're a suite owner. And so if you have the discipline to operate like that, and you can do that, which is very few people actually do that and save money and, you know, are able to retire. Right. Then great. Right. Now, if we're talking to somebody like you that just described, here's always the way I look at it, right? If you're coming from being an independent stylist, you're building, I say, you got to build your clientele to where it's about the bust first, mm-hmm. right? You have to make sure that when you get into your salon, that you can afford it, and then start small. This is my recommendation to every salon owner, every large salon owner that I know, including Win Claybach, mm-hmm. including Brian Perdue, including myself as a younger, you know, hairstylist, and grew a pretty decent sized salon. I started in a place that I could afford by myself at that time, grew a team until we were busting at the seams. And then I had to learn new skills. I had to learn to go from hairstylist to leader to salon owner to, you know, all those other skills. You can grow those skills one at a time. What you don't want to do most of the time, and of course there's unicorns that have different stories. You know, they opened up the 3,000 square foot place and they didn't know how they were going to pay for it. I've heard those stories too. They scare me to death. Me because too. Mm-hmm. Because the truth is I know that a $3,000 rent is really a $45,000 a month break even. Yeah. You know, and it's hard to explain to a person who doesn't get that yet. So I say, start small, get to the point where you're busting at the seams, learn your next level skills. I see next level salon leadership behind you. There's always a next level. Right. But start small and bust at the seams. Yeah, I love that. Start small. Like, I know we all have big dreams, right? But start small, right? Small turns big. Yep. Small turns big really fast. Really fast. Yes. Yeah, when you're doing it right. Big really fast. Yeah. And I love the fact that your course, you know, is similar to our course, and the fact that you're setting people up for success. Like, let's build the foundation. And so as you coach salon owners, how do you train them to get started on building their foundation? And you and I both know that it's, you know, getting to your why. Like, why are you in this business? Like, what's your vision? What's your mission? What's your culture going to be like? So how do you get someone started as far as building their foundation, or take a team member, which we have so many of them that I know both you and I are coaching, that never did this, that don't have any written down systems at all. So how do you get them started? What's the first step? Yeah, it's super interesting. So we there's two things that we do right now. We coach people, right? Like, you know, this kind of live interaction that we're having right now. And what we do is we share all of the systems in Brian's company. And so that's what's pretty super unique, right? So it's a $10 million salon company. You know, it's running every single day. All of these systems are real. You can come and see them and spend time in the salons. And it's, it's not often you get to learn from an owner that's doing those kinds of like multi-location, multi-million dollars and profitable. And so I want to start there to say, we know that that's not the goal for everybody. Not everybody wants to own a $10 million salon organization. It's a way different job than you think it is.
Yes.
Brian's job, and
Yeah.
right. So two completely different jobs. So to say that are John, Brian, and myself, and other team members that we're bringing on right now, Jen Yeager and Chris Yeager from Salon Yeager in Knoxville. Shout out to them. Lindsay at Luna Salon in Florida. Shout out to her. Like this is our team that's growing. Our approach is different because what we've understood is that we all have core competencies. And I can talk to you about leadership, but I don't desire to be the leader that Brian is, because I see what his job is, and I've just decided that that's not a job that I want to do. Right. I see the way John leads. And, he's like my partner. He's one of my best friends. I mean, and, his leadership style is far different than mine will ever be. And I don't want his job either. I like where I'm at in the food chain.
Yeah.
And what we do with salon owners is we take our core competency. So when it's high level leadership, you're with Brian. So this morning, one of our salons who is struggling to evolve the relationship with a good manager that she has. They have a really good manager, but they're having a little bit of a tug of war and power struggle. Both good-hearted, both head in the right direction. That's a Brian conversation. Brian handles that, right? Brian talks to that person about how to become that next level leader, if you will, and what that looked like for him. That's a conversation not that only he can have, but that only he can have in the way that he has it. Right. John, handles the systems down to what does your front desk systems look like? And, and it's simple stuff like checklists sometimes, right? But then it's, what does your payroll look like? Compensation, how much can we afford to pay people? Financial fitness, what does that profit and loss look like? How do we make cash flow projections? Where we want to be. When you're digging into your P&L and we're looking for profitability, you're spending time with John. When you're dealing with your strategies around pricing and around growing your team and around the inspiration piece, not that I'm the only one, but you're going to spend time with me because I'm going to walk you through all of the things that I know hairstylists are going to come up with the fear of being inside of the right price point. And, so we do that. We've got front desk systems, Salon Yeager, Chris from Salon Yeager. He and his wife run a great front desk system. And so, when we have the need for a real makeover at your desk and a real makeover for we call it a resident stylist program. That's that person who's going to be on the floor next. You're going to spend time with Jen. And so we have just kind of all realized that we have these things we love, and that our point of difference is that you get to spend time with all of us based on where you're at. And so it starts out where we take a look at, what are your needs? We make sure that you're not bleeding, we make sure that your profit and losses, that you're okay. And then we decide, okay, where do we want to start? Like, what's your first initial need? And that's how we do it. We always make sure that the salon is healthy first. We make sure, that if there's any fires, okay, let's handle that first. Maybe pricing strategies are a fire in your salon. Maybe it's been long overdue. And your stylists are begging for a career path and they just need that. We just took on a salon that's the first thing we did. We didn't even look at her profit and loss. We knew she was fine because we had long, great consultation about it. And, she and her husband are, they're financially stable. And we were like, here's where we need to start. We need to take a look at your pricing strategies and, how that balances with whatever. And that's where we started. We had a very short conversation about the P&L. We made sure she was where she said she was. And then we got right to work with pricing strategy and how to launch it to the team and how to get them on board so they can see what their growth is going to be. Our online course is similar in that way. Brian does four video series and growing on leadership. John does about 16 videos on culture and profitability. I've got about an 8 video series on growing your team, pricing strategies, the KPIs that we use, and we break it all down. We just show everything that we use for Salon 124. So it's real easy because we're just showing factual stuff.
Yeah. And the price point is incredible. And so jump in right now to get involved in that, because I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And you're such a mentor to me, because this is exactly the next level that our next level salon leadership is going. So to be able to interview you was just like so exciting to me this morning. So I cannot thank you enough. As we end this out, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys? Is it 124go? Academy.com? Is that the best way to book with you guys then?
Yeah, so 124goacademy.com. There's a contact us icon on there. So you can, if you're looking for actual coaching. You mentioned the price point, so I feel like I should say this really fast, because we just, in a weird way, like we didn't need the money. And so we were like, let's just make it not even affordable. Like, let's just make it cheap at first. Like, let's make sure that anybody that wants this course can just buy the course. And it was almost like we knew we needed to sell it because it wasn't, valuable. So the price will go up in the first of the year. It's going to go up to $299. It's way underpriced. So when you do go there and you look at it, there's a lot of content in there. There's over 5 hours of videos. Everything has a worksheet. We have our entire pricing structure in there, all of our KPIs. So like, it's not smoke and mirrors. I promise you, everything is in there that should be in $1,000 course. And we just wanted people to be able to afford it, whether you're a 2-chair salon, if you're thinking of opening a salon, or whether you're multiple location. Everybody that has taken it so far has been like, wow, you guys put a lot in here. And we were like, we just wanted to do this.
Incredible. I love it. Thank you guys for doing that. The industry needs this so desperately, and seeing that, I was just so excited. So, okay. 124goacademy.com. Chris, thank you for being on. One last piece of advice that you want to give salon owners that you have been dying to tell them that you haven't been able to tell them this year?
2 fast things. One is, if you own a salon and really don't want to, you can make a great living in somebody else's salon. You can go to Tina and work in an amazing environment that you didn't have to set up, that you don't have to deal with all the tax crap, that you don't have to do that, and you can be an amazing hairstylist, which is your core competency. I think a lot of people own salons that don't really want to. They just thought that was the next stage in their career. And I always say that because I want to give you permission to do what you love, and if it's hair and just building a big clientele, that's not the job of a salon owner.
Right.
A salon owner and a hairstylist are 2 different jobs, even though they happen inside of the same building. They're 2 different jobs. So if you're an owner that's looking to grow, start to ask yourself and find those people, what is the actual job of a salon owner? How do I dial back my time if I'm behind the chair? How do I dial back my time appropriately so I can start spending the time on the things that are the salon owner jobs? Reach out to Tina. Find out what are the things that Tina does on a regular basis to have grown to 3, how many schools? 3 schools, 6 salons, or something like that?
Yeah, we're building our number 5 school and our 4 salons.
So, I mean, and I know you're not, spending your time behind the chair.
No, no, you wouldn't want me doing your hair.
That's my point, because what you're doing and what most salon owners are doing are 2 different jobs. And I just want people to see that.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. I love that. Yep. You have permission. You
got permission. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Tina. This was a ton of fun.
This was great. We need to have you back again. Thank you, Chris. Take care.
Awesome.
All right. Have fun at your hair show. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone for joining us live. Bye-bye.